Hey everyone, this is Sam here, and today I'm going to be doing a hockey video. Yes, I've always been a big fan of hockey, and I always enjoyed hockey, and I always wanted to talk about hockey, so figured why the hell not, I'll just talk about hockey right now. I'm only going to be doing all the Canadian teams because I'm a Canadian, and I want a Canadian team to, win the Stanley Cup, and hopefully soon, the Canadian team could do that, and maybe during this year, maybe this might be the year. Last year, Montreal almost was in the Stanley Cup Finals, but lost in 5 to the Tampa Bay Lightning. But, it's still a chance that a Canadian team could potentially, early in the future, win a Stanley Cup. So that's my hope. So what I'm going to do for these videos is I'm going to go every week, every Wednesday, that's when this league started, and at least give them 7 days, and see how each team does, and rank them how I feel they're doing. Of course, doing this really early on may seem like a panic, like, oh, you should panicking, and it might seem like the team should be panicking, but again, this is the start of the season, and some teams got the bad starts, and some teams kind of struggle, but, take the start early on these things with a grain of salt. It's not really a panic thing, but if it starts continuing, yeah, there should be some panicking, at least one team, which I'm going to get to. For those who don't know, I'm going to be talking about specifically the Vancouver Canucks, Calgary Flames, Edmonton Oilers, Winnipeg Jets, Toronto Maple Leafs, Ottawa Senators, and the Montreal Canadiens. That's the 7 teams in the Canadian, of all the Canadian teams at least. So, yeah, I want to see how each Canadian team and which team can bring the Stanley Cup back to Canada. So let's go for the first week and see how teams do. Number 7 is going to be the Montreal Canadiens, who started off the season 0-4. And this is not an 0-4 team that you look and go, oh, they fought hard, they were doing their best, but they just got unlucky. No, this is an 0-4 team that has some struggles really early on, and it looks bad. It really, really does. And during this 4-game losing streak, they have only scored 3 goals. 2 of them being from Jonathan Drouin, who is back, which is good, and Chris Wyman, who came back from Russia, which is good for him. Good for him. But goals against, they led a total of 15 goals during this stint. They lost 5-1 to the Buffalo Sabres and 5-0 to the Sharks recently. But there is a reason why maybe their slumps are going. They are missing 2 of their best players, one being their captain and one being their franchise player. Carey Price, obviously the big news is that he went to the assistance program. Obviously he probably has a lot of issues, a lot of things going on mentally and emotionally probably with him, which I hope, I don't want to get into too much detail about it, but I hope that he does okay. I hope he's alright, and he's able to get through what he's going through and come back to the team. As a fan, I want to see Carey Price. So hopefully that he does good. Hope he's okay moving forward. Shea Weber, he's banged up. I think he's on the long-term injury reserve, which probably helps the team the cap-wise, but the big story from him is that there might be conversation of him retiring. I don't know if he will retire. I don't know. Maybe, what's your opinion on that? Do you think Shea Weber retires finally? I don't think he does. I think he powers through and tries to get back on the ice as soon as possible. But I don't know. Just based on the perception, I hope that both those guys come back soon. As a fan, I love both of them seeing. And the team can really use them because, those are your 2 big captains, your 2 big leaders, your 2 best players, and they're gone. And it's really showing. They look so flat-footed in these last few games. They look bad in this 4-game losing streak here. And even Petrie and Gallagher, who have been speaking up, been saying, "Hey, we gotta stick together. We gotta keep fighting." It is frustrating, but we gotta keep going. We can't lose focus. We can't get down. We gotta keep fighting hard, which is a good thing because those 2 guys are very important. But early on, yeah, it's not looking good. When I come back next week, they will play 3 games, and it's going to be a bit of a doozy for them. They got some stuff. It might be hard to get out of this slump because they got to play the Carolina Hurricanes, the Detroit Red Wings, and the Seattle Kraken. So hopefully they can get out of this slump, because if they don't, there's going to be some ramifications, I think. Number 6 is going to be the Winnipeg Jets. They started off the season 0-2-1. The first 2 games against the California teams did not look good. They got beat up by the Ducks, and they blew a 2-goal lead against the Sharks to lose 4-3. A shootout in Minnesota where they lost in overtime 6-5 in a pretty chippy game, and it's they got a point out of it, but still early on, it's they're starting to get. I saw during the game their offense really start clicking. They're starting to get going here. Kyle Connor's going to be a beast. Ehlers, Dubois, Scheifele, Kopp. And I think they're going to be fine offensively. Defensively, though, they got to tighten up. Yes, they got Nate Schmidt and Brendan Dillon, and people think, oh, yeah, this team's going to be just fine. Early on, though, they kind of haven't been tying up a little bit. They got to get going defensively. And Connor Hellebuck, the goaltender, hasn't been playing like Connor Hellebuck. He's been not being Superman for the team, and I think they kind of need him to get going. I think he will. I'm not going to say panic button like I did with Montreal with Winnipeg. I think I'm more comfortable with Winnipeg having a slow start and then picking up later on because their offense started clicking in the Minnesota game and really were going hard. But for the team, they're going to be missing their captain as well, like Montreal. But only for him, it's COVID-19. He'll be out for about 10 days, for about a week and a half. So hopefully he's okay. Hopefully he gets healthy and gets back to the team as soon as possible. So a bit of a slow start for Winnipeg, but I wouldn't be too upset with Winnipeg at the moment because a bit of a slow start for them too, but I think that Minnesota game may turn things around for them, I think. And I think in the next 3 games, I think they can turn it around, I think, because they got the game against the Ducks, the Predators, and the Ducks again. So they got to play the Ducks 3 times this month, and yeah, I think they may get some revenge against the Ducks, and the Predators are a weird team. So I'm not going to push the panic button like I did Montreal with Winnipeg. But, a slow start. Hopefully they can turn it around here during this week. And number 5, I decided to go with the Calgary Flames, who only had 2 games, but they go 0-1-1 to start off the season. And they had Battle Alberta, did not go their way. They lost 5-2, and then they turned around and lose in overtime to the Ducks. The one thing the coach said during the Ducks game, especially the Ducks game, was that they had a lot of opportunities, they looked good, but they just couldn't bury one. And I think with the team that they have, with their talent they have, I think eventually this team could turn around and might shock some people in this division, especially the Pacific Division being so wide open, with the exception of Vegas. It's a very wide open division right now, and slow start. They only played 2 games, and it's a very small sample size of all the Canadian teams, but so far, I wouldn't exactly freak out. I think when the players start really getting their opportunities and start burying them, I think the team's going to be just fine. Yeah, the other thing I want to talk about with the Calgary Flames is a Jack Eichel situation. The big rumors that Calgary is a front runner to get Jack Eichel. And I'm just wondering for you, Calgary fans, do you go for Jack Eichel? Would you trade for Jack Eichel? And what would you give up to get Jack Eichel? Obviously a big name star, probably a draft pick and a top prospect to get him. I assume that's what Buffalo would want. But is he worth the risk? Do you go for Jack Eichel? Because I know that Calgary and Vegas is another team I heard, from what I'm hearing, are 2 front runners, are 2 of the teams that are interested in bringing Jack Eichel in. I think it'd be fun to see Jack Eichel in a Calgary Flames jersey as a fan. Even though I'm an Oilers guy, I'd love to see the Battle of Alberta be more fun with Eichel versus McDavid. That would be so much fun. But that's just me. Do you think they go from, despite only playing 2 games, they got 4 games coming up this week and can give us a better sense of what this team is going to be, hopefully a better early on in the season. They got to play the Red Wings, the Rangers, the Capitals, and the Devils. So, a bit of a tough test, I think, for Flames, but if they can get some W's here, it might help them get going early on. I think they are early enough to where they're still going to be okay, at least in my opinion. Number 4 on this power rankings is going to be the Vancouver Canucks, who start off the season with 4 games, going 1-2-1. The Vancouver Canucks' first 2 games resulted in shootouts, losing to Edmonton the first game, and then beating the Flyers to get the victory. But then their last 2 games, they would lose 3-1 to the Red Wings and get beat up 5-2 by the Sabres. Again, it's super early on for the Vancouver Canucks, like a lot of these things are, but I think the big thing I'm hearing from them is that they're not physical enough. They're not hitting hard enough. And of course, the Detroit game got pretty chippy, if you saw that. Connor Garland threw a back hit to Zadina. Zadina did not like it in his press conference, if you saw that. But, Garland was standing up for him, so not getting hit by a bigger guy, because Garland's not a very big dude. I think this is a team that has a lot of pressure to make the playoffs this year, and I think they can with the talent they have. Though despite being 1-2-1, I think their next 3 games are going to be pretty easy, I think, because the teams they're playing are kind of slumping early on as well. And those teams are being the Blackhawks, the Kraken, and the Wild. Of course, the Wild being really, really hot at the moment. But I think the first 2 games of Blackhawks and Krakens, they might be able to take W's and get going here. So, I think it's early on. Again, I keep repeating that. It's early on. But I think Vancouver so far looks pretty good so far. Number 3 on this power rankings is going to be the Ottawa Senators, who start the season off pretty good, 2-1. This one's pretty easy. They win 1 against Toronto, lose 1 against Toronto, and then got a win against the Dallas Stars. Of course, these are games they're not blowing the team out of the water. They're winning like 3-2, losing 3-1, 3-2. So they're keeping the games pretty competitive and stuff like that, which I think is a good thing, because during the Canadian division, North Division I should say, the team, Ottawa looked like a very impressive team, and it's continuing on during this season, which is a good thing, especially for a team that's young and still rebuilding with a lot of good young core. Speaking of young core, Brady Tkachuk finally got his contract, signed a 7-year contract, I think averaging just over north of $8 million. Of course, it's structured differently, where it makes like 4.5 this year and like 7.5 this year, and the next 3 years he makes like 10.5 million. So it's structured like so, and I think that was the big thing why he wasn't signing right away. He wanted structure. So Ottawa signing their young core, the good contracts. Hopefully he can play to it. Brady Tkachuk was not on these 3 games because he was busy doing contracts, but he will be coming up in these next few games they got coming up. So that's good. He's going to debuting right away, which is good for Ottawa Senator fans. And there's expectations for this team. What do you guys think? Do you think this is the year they break through the Atlantic Division and make the playoffs? Personally, I don't think they're there yet. I think next year's where they really make the splash, at least in my projections. And I'm saying that because the Atlantic Division's pretty tough. You got Florida, Tampa, Toronto. They're coming up right away here. Boston. So far, Ottawa's coming up. Detroit's coming up. Buffalo's doing pretty good so far. Montreal, is kind of sinking. But still, pretty tough hill to climb for the Ottawa Senators going into the division. But they have nothing. I think right now they're just playing for some pride and get some good W's and play good. Of course, the next 3 games these guys got coming up is going to be some tests, and I think they're more capable of taking care of these teams, or give them a good test. Those teams being the Sharks, the Rangers, and the Capitals. Going to be tough, but I think if anyone could do it right now, especially with the morale, it's the Ottawa Senators, and I think they're going to be just fine. So number 2 in this is going to be the Toronto Maple Leafs, who start off the season 2-1-1, and so far their depth has been really carrying this team, which is a good thing, I think. Tavares and Marner got the slow starts early on. In 4 games, they both combined for 3 assists only, with Marner only having 1. Again, it's still early on again, only pack. And Matthews wasn't there to help, give Marner's assist numbers up. And he came back in the Rangers game, did okay, but they lost in overtime in that game. But good to see that their big star, Austin Matthews, is back. Bad news, though, is that Peter Mrazek, though, is injured with a groin. He's out for, they said, 2 weeks, which sucks, because Mrazek's a good goaltender. But Jack Campbell's continuing to dominate the net, as he always did, like he did last year. So I don't think there's really any panic goaltending-wise. Which is good. Other good news is Michael Bunting. When they acquired him and signed him for a good deal, it looks like a steal so far, and I think that's a good thing for the Toronto Maple Leafs. So everything's looking up for the Toronto Maple Leafs so far. I think with Matthews coming back, with their depth doing good, Nylander doing Nylander things, and Matthews coming back, I think the team is going to be just fine going forward, I think. Of course, the next 3 games they got coming up are going to be some doozies, but I think Toronto is going to be just fine. They got to play the Sharks, the Penguins, and the Hurricanes. The Hurricanes going to be a bit of a doozy, I think, but the other 2, I think Toronto has the edge on them, at least in my opinion. So far, pretty good start for Toronto. And of course, at number 1, it's going to be the Edmonton Oilers. They start off undefeated at 3-0. All these 3 wins are coming against divisional opponents. So they got a shootout win against Vancouver 3-2. They dominated Calgary 5-2, and then they had a bit of a wild swing against the Anaheim Ducks 6-5. Even though that one was a bit of a doozy, they still got the W, and their core is doing core things. McDavid does McDavid things, Draisaitl doing Draisaitl things. Puljujärvi's up into a good start, as he would, but also Cassian's getting off to a pretty good start too. He had a bit of a slow, bad run last season, but this season he looked early on pretty good, and at least there's some depth that the team that really needs, and I think this offensively, the depth looks great for Edmonton. I am going to give a shout out to Evan Bouchard. He's been getting a lot of important ice time for this team. He's not getting 25 minutes a game like a Darnell Nurse or Tyson Barrie, but when the team needs a game-clutching decision, it needs a moment last-second thing to really get clutch, they're putting Evan Bouchard out there, and he's looked pretty good, which is a good thing for a 22-year-old to do, and they're expecting Evan Bouchard to do big things in Edmonton, which I am happy for, because I really wanted him to play last season, which they never did. But now they are playing him, and he's done, I think, lived up to the task, and I think Edmonton, so far, early on, because they always get off good starts, has done very good. I hope they continue onward. So, yeah, Edmonton Oilers are off to a good start. They got 2 games coming up, only just 2. They got to play against the Coyotes and the Vegas Golden Knights, which is going to be a tough one. So, yeah.
It's going to be tough, I think, the Golden Knights game, but Edmonton's beaten them before. I think they can beat them again. We'll see. Well, only time will tell. So there you have it. That is the first week done for all the Canadian teams, and that's how they did so far. What do you guys think of the power rankings, and what do you guys think of the teams down below? And how do you think the teams are going to do going forward? That's what I want to know. Give me comments down below, and let me know how you guys feel. Until then, I will see you guys next week for how all the Canadian teams do. Till then, I will see you next time. Bye-bye.